Book 2 Section 19. Hangover Cures 2. Standard Zippy. Woke up this morning feeling good. No, I try but can't feel as happy as Herman and his mates. Lipstick, powder and pills was more the song on a juki before some bizarre form of rest managed a QD on my body. Must be bad today cause not even the circumflex is helping. The first action is to cleanse the outside. That might convince the inside to follow the same lead. After that, a bit of wild exploration and a bite will be in order, as I know full well that sleep is out of the question. The shower brings a gleam to the chassis and the toothpaste manages to disguise the noxious vapors my mouth is emitting for a moment, until it transpires that Aquafresh have launched a Cuba Libre flavor of their 3 Stripes special. I have already taken it upon myself to spend a day alone. Other people with hangovers can be a drag. I need all my power to get myself feeling human again, and people groaning and sighing are just not on the agenda. My head feels both fuzzy and alluring to any spare pain floating around. Ibuprofen, the Greek god of relief, would help with that, but pills should not be taken on an empty stomach. A rather hypocritical view, you may think, but one only adhered to because the effect is reduced. Therefore, we need some nosebag, the nutritious kind. However, when I feel like this my palate is reduced and my standards fall short of the rather intelligent young sophisticate that I am trying to engender. The delightful person at maybe evening's feast last night would be wasted on me, and so I resign myself to crossing through the arches of gold for calories and additives. This standard thing has a knock-on effect on other areas of life too. When feeling like this, your intellectual capacity cannot sustain a plot more complex than that of Bill and Ted's bogus journey, though sometimes even this can cause difficulties. Should you get the pills in your system whilst being able to remain in bed, you will also notice another manifestation of the standards reduction. When pills are taken, you have between 20 and 30 minutes before any effect will produce joy in your body. This period of time can be spent writhing in agony and cursing your weak will, or one can employ one's initiative to make the time pass as fast as possible. As we are more than acquainted now, I do not expect you to be shocked by candid talk. Ideally, in this situation there may be a companion to help you through this limbo period, though often the old adage that it is better to DIY than have a half-hearted hand pull aimlessly, causing you more pain than the headache you're trying to alleviate. Therefore, one must employ what doctors refer to as the tactical wank, a practice devised to occupy the exact period from medicine taking to relief from the pharmaceutical products. Try as you might though, your mind will wander from supermodels and actresses to the rather scruffy-looking lass with greasy hair who works at the local spa. Her causing your attention and work rate to be more productive than the idea of Cameron, Beyoncé and Kidman with a large bottle of Redox and a jacuzzi. More appetizing is the storeroom, rippling rolls of fat between tins of spaghetti hoops and golden grahams. In the same way that your tongue could not recognize the subtle nuances of the fine cuisine on offer, and somehow pot noodle seems to have more mystical appeal than oysters, caviar and even potato waffles, your desire levels regret to inform you that you are not deserving of quality, and should pay penance until the cleansing process is complete. With that, I throw on the shades and am in the lift. I hope no one else is about and desires to tag along, because this for me is a side project, revenge or electronic, and I don't want to see the other 3, of course. I can't wait to hook up with the rest of them and get back in the studio again, but today is my time. Luckily, none of my party is entertaining the planet Earth today, and after a very warm good morning to the receptionist, I am in Spain again. I have no idea where I am going, though consider my instincts capable of bringing me my needs. I decide to buy a map and paper from the first establishment that I encounter. Feeling mad, I buy a Spanish daily as well as the Guardian. The Spanish daily to look windswept as I scan the pictures, and the Guardian to annoy any people annoyed by the Guardian, which amuses me. I have no desire to open a map in the street and look like a tourist, so fold the bad boy into my back pocket and carry on, what I assume is north. I soon find out north is west but leads to the same place. My own personal roam of 100% prime beef and only the finest ingredients, whatever, stodge me up. Overdoing things I order far too much for a stomach addled by a night on the non-liquid leisure. Scoops were big too, but by the time the proper dancing kicked in, the idea of imbibing more whiskey didn't appeal, so I should be thankful to my good common sense. Imagine how I could feel. Consumption is achieved with the maximum amount of force and the minimum amount of pleasure. I begin to ponder the act of childbirth and consider this as an inverse form, Then I begin to ponder, not having any more fucked up thoughts, as I polish off the last of the liquid and realize that the Nurofen are still in my pocket, and, unless a curious form of osmosis takes place, they shall not ease my pain. I feel and smell like what I have just eaten and head to the loos to scrub down. The mouth needs mint, but at least the fingers smell of soap. I have a glance in the mirror and can see the beads of sweat caused by the exertion of the meal. I go for some cold water, dry off, and then feel better. I conclude that I look gold. With my shades back on, I congratulate myself on my good work. Now I can begin to enjoy the world. After procuring mints, I opt for a coffee and, always at test, the first tab of the day. I find a nice place by the seafront which I consider very me, and embark on a mission of linguistic clumsiness. Mr. Barman has seen this before and brings me a coffee with milk, even stretching to a little chocolate noir by the side. The coffee is good and more. A solar system away from the washing up water served on Her Majesty's Isle. So good it is that I have another one and a side sparkling water as the McVomit seems to want to play out. I catch my reflection again as a bus goes by and consider that I must act immediately to get the best out of the day. As the waiter brings me the drinks, I feel a sudden desire to learn the language of the nation, and decide that I shall commence forthwith. I give out a small lay to myself and then realize there are others about. I care not a jot. Removing my sandals to walk along the beach, I delight as the cool water laps against my feet. I truly was born for this world. Luton seems wiped from the hard drive now. Life is so good that my body has decided to give me a treat and completely bypass the come down. I'm ready for a beer now. I pick up a phrase book and begin to formulate my plan. I sit down at a bar, next to some sweet young treats, and flash them a couple of lines of Spanish. Then it is merely a case of tying up some elementary paperwork before they invite me over to their table, and our great nations become closer together. The book has all the information one would need for more or less any situation that life could throw upon you. Also, it has over-the-top phonetic spelling to help with your pronunciation, which actually turns out to be more confusing than the real sentences, as I learn that Spanish is a phonetic language, and if there is an E in the word, then pronounced it shall be. I find a rather pricey-looking joint and plonk my cute, soon-to-be, bilingual butt on the chair. On the next table I took examples of fine local quality. Now the evil has been expelled from the body, we can begin to embrace quality at all levels. Say good night, Spa Slapper. I carefully learn my first sentence and lay it on the astounded waiter. He clearly has enjoyed my ability, as he wishes to hear it again, and a third time. After that he asks me if I should care for a beer. To the distress of the British holidaymaker, whose desire extends to speaking the lingo, a clear minority in these parts, the word for beer provides those who attempt it with a minefield of foreign sounds, huddled together in such a way that the word gets muddled in the mouth. On paper it seems easy, thr, but the pressure of white shirt and moustache complicate things beyond imagination. Undeterred, I sit with the book and read the sentences aloud, unfazed by the others on the terrace. Quite the opposite. That was part of my plan. As soon as my gorgeous, soon-to-be companions heard my attempts to utilize their mother tongue, they would immediately become enticed by this new type of tourist and offer me their tutoring skills. The beer came and went, still they had to take the bait. It was becoming clear that I would have to be the catalyst for their desire. Despite having learned the introductory sentence of "Do you speak English?" by heart, I was still rather nervous at this type of entry. I dipped my hand in my pocket to fish out some confidence. Rather trustingly, I left my belongings on the table and entered the gents. Assuming that a Spanish phrase book and a pack of lights with two left would be safe in Alicante, I took the note to my nose and broke the promises I made to myself when I went to bed last night. If it was any consolation to me, there would be many more opportunities to break them again. Back at the table I felt Spanish as hell, went to light a tab. They had gone, but the book remained. A rather sad reflection on our times. In again to buy some more, I saw a chap leave the gents and decided that I needed to be a little more Spanish. I was probably a little too Spanish, as I left as all and sundry in the bar was given a hola on my way to the table. With my two friends still in residence, I venture over, whilst remaining seated, not easy, and hit them with a habla inglés. You would not believe how difficult it is to pronounce the first upside down question mark. Their response was simply a negation, and then they returned to their incomprehensible chittle-chattle. That wasn't in the script. They were supposed to be enticed by my multinational patter and glide over to my table. Now I had to look for a new question. I wanted to tell them that I was studying Spanish, though this may appear an overestimation on my part and cause offense to people immersed in PhDs and the like. I find the ideal question and lay it on them, giving them one last chance to better themselves as people. Queers una cerveza? Who could turn down a beer with such a specimen? These two, it would seem. Well, the dickens with them. Maybe I should enter into a more realistic scenario. I'm not Benny. In equal doses, I am thankful and jealous of this fact. I pay for my drinks and offer to pay for theirs as well. They say that is beyond necessary, though I'm intent. I hit them with a final adios and leave them to reflect on how stupid they will feel tomorrow. Bad luck, kickers. Further down the road is a similar place. I take a seat near two girls. Not quite the over-made-up, sunglasses and Pimm's pair we left before, yet still more than pleasing to the eye. With power levels dissipating, I venture inside before entertaining the idea of my attack. The same question is greeted with the same response. It would appear these girls who can't stop talking don't care much for chat. A minute or so later they launch a question to the forum and I ask the book for help. Help is not forthcoming. She repeats the question to further lack of response on my part. None of the words have any significance for me. Finally, she points to herself and says Carmen, then she points to her friend and says Laura. The penny doth drop. I point at myself and say Zippy. This doesn't help matters, and it would appear that that name is none too common in the Comunitat Valenciana. This girl is a fighter though. After a few aeroplanes impressions and a makeshift map of the Iberian Peninsula on the table, we ascertain that they are not local. Either they are from the Canary Islands or Sudan. If we assume the map is not to scale, then we shall accept and arrive. I respond Luton like Bedfordshire geography was an essential part of the curriculum here. They've not heard of the place. I also pour a drop of beer onto the table and make a little map showing London and Luton. The latter now appears to be firmly ensconced in Zone 2 of the Underground. I offer them a drink and they accept. They join me at my table and cheek kisses are exchanged. I raise my glass, to which they reply chin, chin, and we commence our friendship. After a few more fumbled sentences they announce that they can speak English but were enjoying watching me squirm. I inform them of their gift for hilarity, but showing myself to be amiable and forgiving, get more beers in. The girls are here on holiday. I've often wondered what people who were born in holiday locations actually do when their fortnight's paid leave comes around. Do people from the Dominican Republic spend 2 weeks in Bradford? What would you be looking for? Like these girls. Did they get off the plane and say, "Oh, I can't wait to get on that beach"? Of course not. They probably don't want to see another beach as long as they live. Yet, they must do because they are here. They ask me what brings me to these climes, and I reply that we are to initiate a business venture in Malaga. This causes raising of the eyebrows and a giggle as these two mistake the stereotype. I tell them that our business will be legitimate, though so half-heartedly that I almost bore myself and can't finish the sentence. The girls call me Chico, which I like. Then, not being backwards in coming forwards, they ask me if they can have a sniff of ching. I inquire what makes them think I am in possession of such a thing, and they just look at me. Enough said. It's true, girls. I hand them the bag, and they are off to the ladies. I allow them the pleasure on their own first, though later plan to be party to future visits. As I sit and sip on the ice-cold beer in front of me, I realize my extreme happiness turn into panic as I have entrusted the remainder of my supply to two strangers. All they would have to do would be disappear, and I would be without drugs, and all this good work would have been for nothing. I am tempted to go in and check whether they are still in residence, but decide to wait seated. With every passing minute I convince myself that they have ripped me off, dwelling in my own stupidity and paranoia. Even returning to my friends would have no effect, as only misery at my own idiocy would accompany me for the rest of the night. The beer began to taste warm and flat. Even the liquid was punishing me being a fool. I tried to find the expression for thieving junkie whores in the phrase book when they came back to the table, placed the bag back in my hand, and furnished me with 2 more kisses each. They suggested we go somewhere a bit livelier, and I concurred, informing me that they would consider it of the greatest rudeness for them not be allowed to cover the bill. I raised my hands and Manuel took the notes. We got into their convertible Beetle and were soon racing through the later afternoon air. Sometimes this world can be a beautiful place. I knew never to doubt these angels, the 2 most beautiful women I have ever met in my life. We drove for a short while to a place that may have been an afters, though looked more like a befores or possibly durings. It was hard to tell. What did strike me was that although it was evident that people had been partying hard for an unknown amount of time, they still looked intact, not like when you go to a wedding or 21st back home and the guests become gradually more and more disheveled during the night. The girls looked like they had just stepped out of a salon, and their male counterparts refused to sweat. I had fallen in love with the place despite knowing only 2 people very briefly. The music was on fire. I was tempted to get Gore involved, but knew that would mean all 4 of them, and I wasn't in the mood for sharing. With the beer and the coke surging in time with the music, it was difficult to find a suitable break where the music wasn't perfect to leave the dancing arena for a freshen up. Laura let me know they were playing catch up, and we were soon in a cubicle, clumsily chopping and dancing at the same time. We flew back onto the dance floor, immediately ordering more beers to vanquish the thirst and the taste that were in the post. Just when I thought the music couldn't get any better, one of the finest exponents of the Wheels of Steel started to do his thing as the crowd went even wilder. Carmen said she was going shopping. In the meantime, I continued dancing with Laura, allowing my hands to wander up and down her now perfect curves, pleased to receive encouragement instead of admonishment. Others were cutting in with her, but I didn't mind, especially as others came behind me and whisked me further into dancing paradise. Carmen came back 10 minutes later with 3 pills, instantly washed down with a San Miguel. Able to enjoy the substances to their near full effect as only a handful of ales had passed my lips, the first waves of the magic ride were not long in appearing, as God chose the greatest records in history, only to be lost tomorrow when the memory of it all began to fade. I knew I would never hear these tracks again, or if I did that it somehow wouldn't be the same. It was like the perfect soundtrack devised only for this moment, and when our organs regained control of our bodies, all would be lost apart from the small portion allowed to be carried around in our hearts forever. Night fell and we were still dancing. I tried to envisage what this place would be like at peak hour on a Saturday night, but then realized that that was missing the point so much. I checked the mobile to see if they cared about me, though past experience must have taught them that these sorts of disappearances were commonplace. Eventually we decided that enough was enough and we were back in the car again, on the road to their apartment for a well-earned smoke to prevent a crash landing. Sitting on the terrace and taking a long draw, I considered the beauty of my 2 new friends. I wasn't sure if this was a sexual feeling or pure, drug-fueled love. That said, I was clearly not averse to the idea of whatever else that was going. Breaching the issue, they regretted to inform me that they were an item, and that men did not irrigate the terrain horizontally. In a moment of clarity I understood the true beauty of the day and the fate of us meeting and disappearing from each other's lives almost as quickly. Some indefinable force had brought us together to spend this quality time together, platonically, simply enjoying the beauty of each other's company without the encumbrance of sex blocking the aim of true pleasure. Passing on the joint, I manifested this idea and thanked them for their honesty, telling them that I would not allow anything to impede the perfection of this moment. After, obviously, I had asked them if they would mind doing a wee flower show as a going-away present. I awoke on the sofa to blaring sunlight to find that they had shipped out. On the table there was a letter, which contained inside a photograph of them on the beach, their phone numbers and a pill, to be enjoyed in their memory. I splashed my face with cold water and abandoned the building. Straight into a taxi like I'd lived around here forever, I gave the driver a hola, the name of the hotel and a poor favor. I'd lost the phrase book during the night, but there would be others. I fancied a swim and a day on the beach, then some beers in the evening with the boys. I held the photo in my hand all the way back to the hotel and promised to see my angels once more.